Any NA non-believers who will own up to the fact that they thought Cloud9 was not going through? They had a case of NA at international events and were ready for Cloud9 to go crashing out at the hands of Arya.
At the hands of fucking Boogax, man. That guy is just insane.
What a hell of a opening stage. Like, so obviously MSI changed their format a little bit, right? Changed it up, so no more plans now. Even the minnows get to play the bigger teams, and for a while there it looked a little scary. You know, the story of Detonation Focus Me, the story of Infinity Esports, obviously Osh making it out, or LCO making it out, which is great. Everyone always overlooks the fact that, you know, the VCS wasn't there. So I think it's been a lot of fun to watch and a lot of fun to kind of get into, which is what we're doing right now with Facecheck episode 16. This is your MSI group stage recap as we look forward to the Rumble stage. dGon, LS, and Dom here. LS, how's it been so far? You've been doing your watch parties with the homies. How's MSI been for you so far?
MSI, I mean, obviously there was that one day that I didn't end up doing, which was the Pentanet group stage day. But outside of that, I mean, everything's been pretty good. I think day one was the most enjoyable day. I mean, every other day has been good except for when the groups get decided. Then obviously it makes spectating it pretty bad, but that's about it. You know,
I mean, I think the format is just so weird to me. Like the format makes no sense. The fact that you can go out of your group 8-0 and then a team that comes out of the group like 2-6 with a tiebreak win is just on even footing going into like the next stage seems so strange, because it incentivizes the top team trolling. And I honestly think that realistically the top team should have trolled more in their group. Like for example, like Cloud9's last game when they're guaranteed out, I think them lane swapping was a big mistake. It was something I talked about. They shouldn't show that they have the ability to lane swap. They shouldn't even show that they might play Rumble, because like there's no winning there, right? Like if Blabber plays Rumble and he plays it well, then people might view it as a threat, and maybe because they weren't playing it before, teams on red side would have left it up and they could have got free wins off it. Or if he plays it and he plays it terribly, then teams can know like, oh, maybe we can leave up Rumble. So like all the elements of uncertainty that like were around that champion are now somewhat answered in terms of Cloud9. And yeah, I just feel like that's like the weird thing about the group, because you don't actually get any type of advantage for placing highly. You should actually be trolling your later games.
Well, but they have to play those games out. They have to have the group stages. I think, you know, sponsorship wise, show run wise, like what do you think, they qualify and then you just stop? Like,
no, I think that you should just get an advantage for like getting first in your group. Like I don't like the format of like you qualify. Like there's in Group A, there's 3 teams. The top 2 teams like qualify, right? And then regardless of their score, they're completely equal. So what happens if you end up in a situation where like RNG has to play Unicorn? And this was something that almost happened. People were like getting critical of, is like RNG like ended up role swapping, and of course they're still going to stomp like the enemy team because they're so far ahead in that group. But in a situation like that, what happens if they roll swap and they actually like lose that game randomly? They roll swap, use a sub, lose that game, which is in their best interest because they don't want to show anything extra going into the group stage. Then a team might advance and we might not get a tiebreaker there. So that's like the weird thing, is that like obviously in this situation, rank 1 was so far ahead of rank 2 in that group that like that's going to happen either way. But I just think in general, like the thing that I liked is, for example, when we had play-ins last year at Worlds, there was differences in what happened depending on where you placed, right? So if you were first in your group, you automatically advanced to group stage. If you were second in your group, then you got to play against the winner of the 3rd and 4th place team from the opposite group. So you'd actually get to skip a best of 5. And if you were 3rd or 4th, you had to play the other person in your group and then have another best of 5 against the second seed of the other group. So like I feel like there's ways you can make these games matter and make placing within your group matter, but it's just like it's super strange to me that like it doesn't matter at all and everything resets going into the next stage.
Yeah, it is different. It definitely is different. I think what I like about I am not as negative about it though, just because I like the fact that they're willing to experiment with it. They had to deal with the fact that one of the teams is gone and wasn't able to do it in the middle of a pandemic. They're still trying to have it in person because obviously you can't play online. And I hope that they take that and what you said into consideration as well. Hopefully, like in terms of like maybe it's the top 3 teams So what you think it would be, the top 3 teams make it out, and second and third play a playoff against each other to make it into
or maybe not like a Rumble stage, because like a Rumble stage is essentially a second group stage, right? There's like this group stage, and then there's another group stage, which is like the Rumble, where all the teams are just competing in the same group. And out of those teams, there's 6 teams, 4 go on. I want to see more best of 5s essentially at a tournament. I feel like the more best of 5s you have, the less variance that you have in the tournament. I think in general, most people don't view best of 1s as like a better measuring tool than 5-game series or 3-game series. So I would love to see like a group stage and then like a bracket stage where, like the teams that are first maybe get 1 spot advanced in the bracket, similarly to how they do like LPL playoffs, LCS playoffs, LEC playoffs, where there's like a winners bracket, losers bracket. The teams that place like second in the group, have to play like a round robin of some sort, or they have to play best of 3s against each other. I just think that will make like a more hype tournament than a bunch of best of 1s.
LS?
I mean, I think, the format of MSI is kind of, I feel like it's really hard, right? Because sometimes what's just going to end up happening is like, well, I guess actually, the last like 2 days weren't that bad, but early on in the tournament, one of the things that was really sort of resident sleeper was the fact that it felt like games were just being decided in the first 7 minutes, right? The top teams versus like the wildcard teams. But then upsets started happening, and then dom1 started playing like shit. And so things get a little bit weird there, right? But I think, yes, what everyone looks forward to mostly is best of 3s or best of 5s. But this like best of 1 thing, not only does it like kill the mood, I feel like it's really hard to structure the groups or the brackets in a way that keeps the viewer engaged throughout the entirety of the group throughout the day. It's really, really, really hard. Or you make the viewer agitated. Like the fact that you can have like RNG play last after having played first or something, or Dom1 or Cloud9 or anything like that, right? It feels weird. I can understand it from like a viewership standpoint, but I also think that when you have so many bad games in between, sort of harms the viewing experience. It doesn't keep the viewer engaged until that final match, because some matches just don't matter.
So I'll agree with those points. I'll agree with those points, but I think the fact that we talked about a shit ton about Detonation focused me that there was a Cloud9's resurfacing and triumphant return in the second half of the group stages only happened because Detonation focused me and Infinity Esports were able to get wins and were tied with Cloud9 at 1 and 2, and everyone decided to pile on and shit on them. Like without best of 1s, that excitement would not have happened. Like, yes, because there's a couple games where I was like, oh, this one kind of sucks, or this one doesn't matter. I look over at your co-stream, LS, and I'm like, oh, LS is in a solo queue game. Okay. And like that definitely does happen. That does happen. But I don't know if I would have more fun watching RNG do a best of 3 against Pentanet. Like, we got to watch them stomp 4 times, and again, that's just a product of VCS not being there. But a best of 3 of a very good team against a very bad team doesn't feel as exciting as the opportunity for them to be able to.
Yeah, and the idea would be that like that wouldn't happen, because in the group stage, RNG would have a big enough lead that like maybe you do a group stage where the top 2 teams get buys, right? So like maybe Dom1 and RNG get buys, and then like C9 has to play a best of 3 or a best of 5 against Pentanet, and then Mad Lions has to play a best of 3 or a best of 5 against like PSG. Like that's the type of thing that I'm talking about there, where like the group stage gives you an advantage, so you don't actually have to watch like bad best of 5s. I mean, unless there's like a massive disparity between the top 4 and the bottom 6 or whatever, in which case like you can't really do anything because there's not that many teams at the tournament. Like that's gonna happen either way. I just think that the format can like encourage like more like less variance, and then like also like more matches that you actually want to see, because I have a feeling that there's going to be like it's gonna get to the point in the next round where like every team is just stomping Pentanet, and it's like, oh shit, there's a Pentanet game on again, and then we got to watch like a million fucking best of 1s of Pentanet this tournament, where it's like I don't think that, like, honestly, Pentanet overperformed. Like they should have been way worse than UOL. They've overperformed, but you can't have a region that has 0 resource versus like regions that are like some of the best in the world, and then also have competitive leagues and anything, and then expect them to like be able to compete. And then it's going to end up like them getting stomped by everyone, I think.
But I think that's the point, right? Like if Pentanet wins 1 game, that means they boomed the fuck out of whoever they beat, like in this group stage or in this Rumble stage. So if they're able to do anything, I think that's sick. We'll get into Rumble later, but I think we've made some really good talking points, and hopefully we can get an even better format for Worlds or maybe MSI next year. Let's go into the groups just real quick and hit the teams that hit the group. So we had one person. We did our predictions last time. I thought Pain was getting out. I was wrong. We all thought Unicorns of Love was making it through in Group A. We were wrong, and then all three of us got Group C correct. But only one person that hits us up in the comments of our videos and of our prediction video, my prediction videos over at VENN Esports got it right. I said I would shout him out on the show. It's Crash B800, the only person to pick all 6 teams correctly through the group stages. I don't know how they picked Pentanet over RNG or over Unicorns of Love, but they did, and they got it correct. The only person to get it right if you want yourself an opportunity.
It's better to not know. Is what you end up learning about these types of things. Is it's always better to not know the reasoning for the people that got the correct predictions. Like you actually always have it during Worlds, like when they do their own brackets or whatever.
Their pick'ems.
Yeah, their pick'ems. Like the person that wins, they always are like, yeah, I've never actually watched the game before, and I just like picked all these random teams because I like their logos the best. And it's like, oh shit, well. Like that reduces the hype. It'd be so much better if somebody came on. It's like, yeah, I'm just smarter than every other analyst. Like, I don't know what to say. Like, it was really fucking obvious who was going to win, and that's why I got them all right.
I think it doesn't matter. So if you guys at home think that you got what it takes, let us know in this video or the predictions video coming out later in the comments who will make it out of the Rumble stage in the order that they make it out. So there we go. All right. Group A, this was the one where shoeies all over the place. Everyone drinking out of their shoe. That's what a shoey is. If you didn't know, Pentanet upset Unicorns of Love. Again, weird group because there's only 3 teams in it. Only one team not able to make it. And it does feel like an upset with Unicorns of Love having the pedigree that they did going to the world stage multiple times. But that's on the bottom half of the group. Group A, LS, what are your thoughts on it?
I thought Pentanet actually surprised pretty much everyone. I legitimately thought that Unicorns of Love, especially given like what you just referenced, right, their world showings, I thought that it should have just been them and RNG probably advancing, especially after seeing some of the games. But there was also some pretty weird games where Pentanet was in actually really, really, really good spots, but then they would lose. Obviously, Pabu had like some really, really, really bad games in the tournament, the Kindred and the Fiddlesticks thing. But then, interestingly enough, Pentanet had that one game against RNG where if who was it on Lee Sin? Was it Chaz? When Pabu and Chaz were in bot lane in the brush, and if Pabu just ulted on Fiddle onto RNG's bot that were flashless, etc., like the game looks probably very different. And it's games like that always scare me when you look at someone like RNG or Domwan, because it's the position is a little bit too close to comfort, but then the game just got blown wide open, right? So game 1, I don't think there's really too much to talk about though, because it's only a 3-person group, and I think it went, aside from that, pretty much as expected. RNG going 8-0.
Dom?
Yeah. I think UOL being as bad as they were was really surprising. They obviously had a really fucked up read of the meta. They were like banning Rumble on blue side, and that's like something that we're going to talk about soon. But yeah, like the Rumble play of this tournament has been way lower than I expected. Like it only honestly looks like El Yoya and Wei can actually play it. Like Canyon's Rumble didn't look good. And I don't actually think that the champion requires that much. Like it's more like just understanding how the champion works and understanding how heat works, like knowing like the thresholds that you want to be at and just having experience rather than, having insane mechanics. And I thought more people would be able to pick it up because like, I don't know. I have a feeling if we had more if we had better junglers at this tournament in general, we would like get to see like higher priority on the champion. Like there was times where, Istanbul Wildcats played it. It looked bad. When Unicorns of Love, like I think they might've played only one game. I think they played it one game. If not, like the Rumble play in that whole group was really bad outside of Wei. So I think their meta read was super off. And then just UOL just looks like way weaker than they were at Worlds because Gadget's not there. And part of the reason why UOL succeeded before was the fact that Gadget was super versatile and you could just take picks that like Orianna, for example, and flex them bot lane. He had other mages that he could play bot lane, so it enabled things like the VENN mid we saw at Worlds. Like he played Swain at Worlds. Gadget played Swain at Worlds. So I feel like Lodic was like pretty bad. I mean, people said like things like he was riding a Thieves. I don't really know. I'm not listening to the broadcast, so I don't have all the storylines. But just like I'm just judging from his play. I thought his play was way weaker than expected. It felt like they pretty much like Lodic and Santos pretty much lost every single lane in the entire group, which was really surprising.
Yeah, had the chance to talk to Pradith over at Pentanet, and he had the quote of the tournament for me, which was, yeah, last night I went out to the Tiki Bar, got refreshed, and while all these other teams are tryharding and scrimming and all that other weeb stuff, I think relaxing will pay off. And I mean, it did for them, and they were able to make it on through. So Group A, RNG and Pentanet making through, Unicorns of Love back to the drawing board, and we'll get to see if they get to continue their LCL dominance like they have over the last 2 years and bounce back at Worlds. Group B, this one was fun. This was the one that everyone thought would be a fun group. I personally still thought it was a fun group. Mad Lions, PSG moving on through. Pain Gaming were in it until they weren't. And Istanbul Wildcats, I think that was the big question mark that everyone had. And it feels like everyone I talked to in post-game interviews and just that were around the scene were like, yeah, Istanbul Wildcats are a good team, but they were never able to put it together in a match. And they end up going out 1-5, getting their first win in their day 4 in game 1. Dom, what do you make out of this group here?
I was just surprised how hype people were on PSG. Like, I honestly, so I didn't watch any of PSG Talent, but I don't feel like anyone else watched any of PSG Talent either. And then everyone just predicted PSG Talent to suddenly be better than Mad Lions for like no reason. It was so weird to me. Like, I feel like no one actually watches PCS from like NA and EU, but so many people were so confident about like PSG Talent. It was so strange.
I mean, maybe I'm to blame on this, right? Because I predicted them to get ahead of Mad Lions, but the whole reason for me to predict it to get ahead of Mad Lions, right, is so we were talking before the show, right? I talked to a lot of the Western players right now at MSI, but there's also LEC teams that are scrimming. Some of the MSI teams. Literally everyone was saying that PSG was ass blasting them in scrims, and that PSG was playing just like the Korean and the Chinese team, which is RNG and Damwon, are not playing just like them, but like. On their level, there were 2 separate teams that told me that they got 5-0'd. So
I know Cloud9 got 6-0'd, but I heard that not from Cloud9.
It sounded like the general consensus was that even another top LEC team ended up losing 5-0 to PSG, and there were other MSI teams that were just getting completely booty blasted. So, like. It's really weird, because especially when the conversations are basically saying like it's not like we're not trying or anything like that. It's they're playing way better than everyone else, right? The way that they play. So from that, right, that's where I made the assertion that I thought PSG would just.
Yeah, no, I wasn't just talking about you. Like I even forgot that you made that prediction. It was mainly other people that I saw like on Twitter and stuff. Everyone was just like super hyping PSG, and I was like, I don't think anyone's watched them play because I feel like I watch a lot of League and PCS is so underwatched. Like the English stream of PCS gets like 1K viewers. So I felt like people like sometimes make these predictions because they're like, oh, Mad Lions is a flawed team, which means that because Mad Lions is flawed, another team is going to beat them, but they don't actually know how strong the other team is. All they know is that Mad Lions is not that good, so then they just place other people in front. And I just feel like that's super weird when people do that without any information.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think it's also the fact that they were both at Worlds before. This is a lot of the same roster minus Unified. I was surprised that people didn't. That just believed in dGon right away, even when Clement Chu, who's one of the few people that watches the PCS, that's one of the regions that he covers, said dGon is a downgrade from Unified. But and in that very first game, dGon looked like dog crap, and then was able to bounce back throughout the rest of the games, and at least look serviceable. He looked serviceable to Maple, to River, who. I
mean, I thought he looked good. I thought he looked better than how I remember Unified looking. Like, I don't remember having the same impression from Unified as I did from dGon. I thought dGon was actually pretty good.
on the Trist.
The Trist was good, and just in general, I mean, I felt like he had decent synergy with Kai Wing, even though they're like just plays together. I don't know. I thought he was better than I expected.
Pain Gaming. They had the opportunity to make it on through. It was Robo's day. It was Rob's day, Robo's day to try and do something. But this damn team just cannot get over the hump and win the games that they're supposed to win. What did we learn from Pain Gaming? Did we learn anything from Pain Gaming here? Is BRTT still got it?
No.
Unfortunately, no.
I think their support is like, I don't know. Like, people were saying he was sick, but even in the games that he wasn't, like, assuming he was only sick in the last day, like, I thought that their support was like probably the worst player on the team, and he's a Korean import, so that's strange. Like, I feel like as an import, it's the same thing in NA, right? Where other like if you are an import, you have to be one of the best players on the team. Like, that just is what it is, and I didn't feel like this guy was an import. If you told me he wasn't an import, and like, you know, hit the player cams and everything, I would have just been like, yeah, no, that's just a random Brazilian support, and he's just not as good as his teammates. So I thought the bot lane in general was pretty weak. I don't think BRTT's play was great, but I think he's getting handicapped in lane by his support. I thought Robo was pretty good, but he just can't transition his leads. Like, he doesn't know what to do once mid game starts. He just runs it down like over and over again and just overforces fights. Where it's like top lane is the one role where if you want to be like a carry top laner, you want to carry games, you have to stay ahead of the pace of the game and experience in gold. You cannot ever like dip into the rest like that. Like, your massive advantage is your level advantage that you get from playing top lane and catching so many sidewaves. So I feel like he's like close to being good, right? If he just didn't throw his advantages in the mid to late game, he could be like, you know, they could potentially even get out of this group.
Oh, then who was there? What do we think of Karaoke and Tinones? Because I think Tinones was holding them together like multiple games. They just couldn't. Like, Lucy just couldn't get out of his own way.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think their whole top side is like fine. I mean, they're not insane or anything, but they're fine. I think they're decent. I think their support wasn't that good, and then I think that the AD as a result looks worse. I don't think BRTT, like, there was times where a really really insane AD carry could probably like win some of those situations. But yeah, I mean, I thought BRTT like definitely like didn't play his best either. So I think their bot lane is their weakest part.
Yeah. Hey, bear with us while we got the Mr. Destructoids going on. Let us know when it's saved. Twitch is acting up. All right. That means that takes us to our group winning group here. Mad Lions. Mad Lions go 5-1. A couple of those games are nail biters. They are heart pounders. I got to talk to El Yoya right after the backdoor attempts by Pain Gaming, that very, very close game. And he was exasperated and also apologetic. He apologized he's like, sorry, these matches, hopefully they've been entertaining, but we're sorry that these matches have gone to this quality. Mad Lions, I think it's fair to say, look like, I don't know. And Damwon hasn't looked great either. But Mad Lions, are they the weakest number one team moving on, even though ranking didn't matter?
I mean, yeah, they're probably the weakest number one team moving on. I mean, Damwon could be viewed as weaker than them. But yeah, I would just say that like the way Mad Lions would like throw their mid games and stuff doesn't worry me as much as like how Cloud9 looked in the first 3 games that they played. Like, I would much rather have a team like be getting consistent advantages and then like pushing too far than watching a team that feels like they don't know what to do to actually get their advantages. So I mean, I think that some of the games like Mad Lions just like turned their brain off after they got like 5k gold lead in the early game. Yep. But I don't think they're gonna do that versus like really good teams. Like I don't think that they're that big of like throwers at all points. So yeah, I don't know. I just think that Mad Lions, like, they looked fine. I don't take anything like away from them just because they like had some bad mid games or they like randomly trolled in mid games versus wildcard teams with huge leads.
So how you feeling about Mad Lions after they go 5-1? It's just not as dominant as we'd hope a first place seed would be taking it.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, obviously, I don't really enjoy the manner in which they get leads or advantages and then how they play them out, right? It just feels really volatile. So I think against like Dom1 and RNG, things probably look really rough for them, but I think against probably every other team in the tournament, it's probably fine for them. And I think that's just like a sad reality of the situation. I agree that Dom1 did not look very good inside of their group. They could have legitimately dropped 2 games to Cloud9. That was obviously very scary. And then RNG, RNG is the most dominating looking so far. But RNG also played against potentially 2 of the worst teams in all of them. So it's a little bit weird. I think that they're fine moving into the next round. I think that Mad Lions will make top 4 at the tournament. But then I think it depends on who they roll. I mean, Mad Lions can make finals if they roll Cloud9, and Cloud9 can make finals if they roll Mad Lions. I don't think they're favorites against either Dom1 or RNG, though.
No, sure. I mean, I think that like RNG, they definitely played against weaker competition. Like we didn't get to see them play against anyone good, but like how hard they dominated them and how consistent like their early game plays are and stuff. I think that that's what to me like separates them from other teams in this tournament and why I think that they're the favorite. I mean, even Showmaker thinks that like, I mean, obviously you got to take what Koreans say in interviews with a grain of salt because they normally are like, pretty polite and like respectful to other teams. But I honestly think that you should be like, everyone should be considering RNG the like favorite in this tournament. And if RNG beats them, or if RNG gets beat by Dom1, I feel like that's something that, people can like attribute to other things, like the fact that Dom1 might shape up, or maybe Dom1's like style of neutralizing, your opponent early game, which they haven't been able to do at this tournament, by the way. They have not been neutralizing other teams early game. They've just been like losing early games and then coming back. But if they somehow like are able to do that, maybe that gives more credit to like the fact that Dom1's been there before and they've played in really intense matches. So they have like more experience in those situations. They have players that, like, so for example, Xiaohu and Ming have a lot of experience on RNG, but the other players don't. So like there could be like issues there later on. But I think that in terms of like overall play, the thing that I like about RNG is like, even though they play aggressive, they play really well with their setups. Like they use their TPs well, they ward well, they move around the map together. Like you can tell that they're so practiced. Like one thing I always stress when I watch LPL is 315 dives, like knowing which waves are going to have push and then like stacking the wave and then diving on the wave when your jungler is there. They can do that so consistently, and no other team has been able to do that when they're in similar situations with pushing lanes. Like at the end of it, like when I see things like that, I don't think it matters what opponents you're playing against. If you do have the push and you have the opportunity like to stack the wave and you have your jungler free, like it doesn't matter your opponent at that point. It's like whether or not you can practice and execute that dive, and I just don't see other teams doing it.
Oh, LPL, so good. All right, thank you for that, Dom. Before we close out Group B, who is your biggest surprise player and who is your biggest underperformer?
For RNG?
LS. No, for Group B. For Group B, LS. Who you got? Surprise and underperformer.
I think IWillDominate played pretty well inside of the group, and I think. I don't know who I would say is overall like an underperformer. Holy Phoenix actually had a lot of good games. Maybe you could say Holy Phoenix.
That's who I was.
Yeah. Unironically, yeah. I think actually probably Holy Phoenix maybe had overall the best performance, like individually.
He also like threw 2 times, like crucially with his advantage though. Like that's the thing that's tough for me is like the game where Fair played Rumble and was running it down. If he didn't just suicide in one of those fights when he was like 8-0 on Samira or whatever, the game is fucking won. And then in that last game where he jumped in on Kalista, forced the 3v5, like he had like some massive blunders where it's like, damn, you just lose the game off that because you're the one that had all the gold.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
I like that we land on that. All right. Overperformer, Holy Phoenix. Underperformer, Holy Phoenix. All right. Let's get to Group C. This is the one that everyone here, chat, this is one that you wanted to hear about, right? And talk about how great Cloud9 is and how Damwon is struggling, but then found their form, but they still win the group, and how great the power of anime was for Detonation Focus Me. Not just one thumbs up, 2 thumbs up. I forgot who that was from.
Is that Steel? Or was it Evie that did that?
I think it's Evie. Is it Evie? Chat will let us know. But either way, that was a scary group in the first half of the round robin. But then Cloud9 get their asses in form and are able to take a game off of Damwon. Yeah, it's Evie. There we go. Take a game off of Damwon and then go perfect in the back half. LS, thoughts on Group C in the group stage?
I mean, Group C, obviously the biggest disappointment, right? It's Damwon. Overall, they should have legitimately lost the first game to Cloud9. If Fudge just doesn't push, I mean, at 2 separate times, literally 2 perfect moments inside of the game in isolated scenarios, Fudge actually just pushes a wave for literally no reason. And it allows both of those instances to occur that allows Damwon to capitalize inside of the game and then find a really good spot and then obviously catapult themselves to an unlosable position. But outside of that, that game was super free for Cloud9. Damwon they're still showing up with their fucking donkey center drafts and donkey early game gameplay where they'll just handstake stuff. But oddly enough at MSI, they're actually falling behind in a lot of instances. So that one's a little bit shaky. I think Cloud9 probably, I mean, they performed above expectations, right, for everyone. I think their win over Damwon was really good and the manner in which they did it. So this group was obviously the most exciting for me as a viewer because I think it had the most competition. I think Detonation focused me. Maybe there's a world where they advance over Cloud9. But obviously it wasn't the one yesterday. So that's, that's pretty much it. Infinity Esports, I mean, it was kind of weird, right? The games that they ended up having. But yeah. Damwon looking shaky, and I think Cloud9 will get top 4 in the Rumble stage.
Yeah. Also, if we go back to Infinity Esports' one win, that was when Arya on the Renekton, right? He was on Renekton.
He got solo killed by Silas as Renekton mid when he was level 2 and the Silas was hitting level 3. That was pretty impressive. I didn't even know that was possible at the pro level to lose that lane.
Right?
No, seriously,
it was like,
I've never
easy
seen
group.
That. I've never seen that. In every region I watch, Renekton is considered a hard counter to like Silas. And like maybe like Silas can try to not get shit on, but I've never seen Silas solo kill a Renekton level 3.
Yeah. What a start to that group. And I think one of the reasons why things look so damn dire for Cloud9, it's like, hey, this idiot got solo laned by Cody, and now he's holding his own against Perks, not allowing Perks to take over the game. But Cloud9 turned it on late. Can we go into, before we get into more Cloud9 stuff, can we get into the Detonation Focus Me and Damwon games? Because why were they so close? Why was there just a stress level factor that was through the roof here for Damwon, LS?
I mean, I like Damwon do these really. I mean, it happens in the LCK, right? So me and Nemesis were talking about it because we co-streamed most of the LCK games, right? This past split. But Damwon does this thing where they actually draft really fucking bad, but they're carried by being like the best team fighting team. That was pretty much their perception, right? And the fact that they have such star players in so many positions. So it ended up usually not mattering. So I jokingly said, how bad is Gen G and T1 that we can't actually just draft in a manner that lets us beat them, right? Because the way that they play in LCK is really akin to what they had in the group, where they just draft really, really, really similar. They have a total disregard for like the process. It's not very reactive to what the opponents are doing. And their play style is pretty much the same. They only handshake. But in MSI, they were falling behind early. And I don't know what you would attribute it to. I don't think there's anything to really attribute it to. But then things are shaky. I think Detonation Focus Me, compared to other teams, they scrim against Korean teams quite a lot, right? And people don't realize that. So I think that people just look at Japan and think Japan lol. But they get to scrim against a lot of LCK teams. So I don't know. I'm not totally sure what to think. I think Damwon just had a really off week in general, and it was really highlighted in the games.
I feel like they haven't adapted that well to the meta. I mean, when I think of Damwon, even though they do have the like they played a lot of Udyr games and they can play Hecarim and all that stuff. I always felt like the strength of Damwon was when they're playing control mage mid, tank top with like Canyon on Graves or Nidalee. That's like when they actually are like they look like the best team in the world. Like they know how to play around jungle and they get like they get to a point in the game where Canyon can actually act as a carry from the jungle role. And I just feel like their drafting this tournament was super weird for Damwon. Like I expected them to like not play Kai'Sa as much. Like when I think of Ghost, he's more of like a Jhin player, like a Jhin Varus. Like, you know, I can see Ashe coming out in certain matchups. Like that's the player that I expect. And then like Barrow mechanically looked super, super off. But I think that the scary things for Damwon are that like the Rumble did not look good. The one time they played it, it did not look good. Can they actually play that? Because that's going to be a huge pick. I think El Yoyo's Rumble looked good. I thought River's Rumble was like pretty good. And I thought Wei's Rumble was good. And I think all the other Rumble players like can't fucking play it. So now I think that the weirdest thing that happened in Group C was because there was no good Rumble players in that group, the champion dropped so much in priority where it shouldn't, right? Like, so I don't know if they have a delusional perception of how strong the champion actually is because of the group that they just played in. Because, I mean, in other groups, it's like first pick, banned. The only time that it gets to like R1, R2 is if the blue team doesn't play it at all. And I just think that the adaptation to like the meta in this group was really terrible. I don't know. I think we have different opinions on Kindred. Like I remember that Kindred game that Blabber played. And just in general, I just feel like those types of comps like that Cloud9 runs, even though they're good on paper, I know they're going to lose when they draft something like Victor, GP, Kindred, because I feel like Cloud9 needs to have like that like playmaking potential. And when you draft like Victor, GP, all these champions, it's a lot about like controlling zones, controlling chokes, like just morphing terrain to like get advantage fights. Like you have like a lot of ways that you can control space, but I just feel like that's not the strength of the team. I feel like Cloud9's best when they could just be like kind of like see hero, kill hero, and they have like not necessarily like better team fighting, but they have like the ability to like get picks and stuff like that. And Blabber has the ability to play make. So yeah, I'm not really sure how this group is going to perform. I mean, I assume that Damwon's going to get it together and make finals. I assume the finals is going to be Damwon versus RNG. But I mean, if Damwon keep playing like this, I don't think that they'll beat Mad Lions. Like they obviously have to play better than they played right now, or they're just going to get stomped in the early game.
Well, let's dive into that just a bit. I mean, was it just a pick thing? We heard Blabber talk to Dash about it after their win over Damwon and how, you know, everyone in North America rejoiced after they got that win. It was like no more. What did he say? No more weak junglers. Weak early game junglers. I forgot exactly what he said, but basically just gave away a lot. That he's like, yeah, no more weak side junglers, and it worked out. I mean, they got the wins. He looked different. I mean, no one, I think because of the play in that yesterday, right, that helped them qualify, I feel like a lot of people forgot that he like tried to flash over Udyr to get a Krug and die.
That was clear miscommunication. Like obviously, like from anyone that fucking has played professional, you can tell that he thinks that Jace is coming, right? Because like Jace on the minimap is like moving towards what he doesn't realize. Like he just didn't pan over the lane. Like he was looking at his situation and he didn't see Jace's situation. If he saw that Jace was like lower mana than he needed to be, and he didn't have a huge HP advantage, and like where he was specifically, he wouldn't have went for that, right? Like he's obviously just thinking that he's gonna have backup, so if he just gets the crab, like they'll be able to at least get him out. So that's just something where I feel like it's just down to Blabber not actually looking at the lane and like relying on communication and just overall ideas of how lanes go. It's like, oh, we have a Jace top, they have a Gnar top, like so our Jace is gonna push the Gnar, we're gonna have Prio there, so then we can contest the top crab. But you actually have to fucking look at it and see if that's the situation.
Yeah, I mean, I had a lot of fun with the no one double crabs Blabber twice in back-to-back games, so that was good. He made sure that didn't happen. But
no, I mean,
it was tough.
Like, to be clear, it's obviously Blabber's fault. It's just the way that people phrase it is like they think that he just thinks that he's going to win the 1v1 with Nidalee and Udyr, which clearly is not the case. Like, obviously he thinks someone's coming. He's a fucking like he's one of like he is the best jungler in North America for a reason. So
he's been the best player over the last two.
Oh shit! My earphones died. Oh my god.
Yeah,
I can't hear. Hold on. Can't hear.
Yeah, I mean,
I can't hear. Hold on.
Oh no.
Oh, jeez. Oh, Lord. Hold on.
Nobody thinks that. It's obvious that people think that because the first comment,
yes.
the first comment that people always make when that shit happens
I
is
think
like,
I
what
can
the
hear
fuck was Blabber thinking there? It's like very obvious what he's thinking. Like that shouldn't be the question.
Yeah.
I mean, the one thing no one points out, right, is that Blabber does 5 camp into Gromp invade. He's sinning for literally no reason. But maybe his perception is that if he goes to golems, then what ends up happening is he goes to golems and then he contests crab or something, and then it's a flip. And if he loses the flip there, then Udyr gets right crab too because of bot lane state. Udyr will just run through mid, get bot crab, and then if Blabber follows, then he's forced at Gromp, and then Udyr's down at bottom, right? But I mean, he starts everything off with a sin, and obviously, yeah, it's entirely his fucking fault because all you have to do is camera pan and tell that you can't do it.
Yeah, he's not camera panning over lanes enough. Like it's obvious that he's playing with mentalities. Oh shit, I'm hearing myself. Something's happening.
He's using speakers. LS is using speakers.
What's happening?
LS is using speakers.
Well, no, it wasn't happening until right now. So. Oh, okay. So we should just wait for it to fix, or.
I don't know. LS, are you getting headphones?
No. I'll just use push to talk.
Okay.
All right.
Oh,
sure.
There it is.
Yeah. Anyway, so the thing about Blabber is he's playing too much off like his idea of how lanes go and not looking at them enough. It happened the first game versus Dom too, except he didn't die for it, where he's playing with the mentality of like, oh, I have a pushing bot lane, right? I have Varus Tom Kench, so I can be able to contest this crap. But like when you play against good players, the lanes don't always go perfectly. Whereas in NA, I could see that like, you know, if C9 plays Varus Tom Kench into I think it was Leona Jhin, they're gonna be able to get push and they're gonna like have pressure, and that crap is gonna be free every time. Level 3, you know, Leona was trading onto Varus. Varus had to force Tom Kench to blow his W, and then suddenly that's not a winning lane. That's not a prio lane, or at least the prio is not enough to actually contest crab on that timing. So I think that another thing that needs to happen is people need to start playing their lanes in ways where like obviously Blabber has to fucking play better, right? Like I'm not saying that he is playing perfectly and it's his lane's fault, but his lanes need to enable him to get the crab, because if you look at those situations, he's pathing towards the Jace versus Gnar lane with the idea that he's going to be able to have prio there and get the crab. But the right play at that situation, when Fudge trades in whichever pattern he did, where he's not chunking the Gnar out and when that happens, the right play for Blabber is just giving up the crab and just full clearing and then resetting, which is not a win. You know, like that's something that you don't want to have happen if you're clearing towards your Jace Gnar lane. So that's something that also needs to be done. Like this Cloud9 pushing lanes, the prio lanes actually need to be getting prio.
Yeah, I think Fudge with Ashley Kang broke down the play and, you know, accepted the responsibility there as well of like, hey, that was on us as well. So I just wanted to hit that one because, again, as you said, Dom, and we've seen a lot of people have been talking about Blabber's form at the very beginning, and then now just because we switched junglers, Blabber's back, right? It was a gameplay mistake there. So all right, so those are our groups here. Surprise players of Group C. Who'd you got, Dom?
Surprise players of Group C?
Yeah. One good, one bad, or just one.
So it's weird, right? Because I feel like this player through the entire game versus Dom1, but I think Steel in general played pretty fucking well, like as a jungler. Like I thought that he, you know, got jungle advantages in pretty much every single game versus everyone he played against. So I thought Steel was actually like pretty impressive. And then biggest underperformer, I actually thought Beryl has been pretty weak. I think Beryl has been like just, I don't know. He just doesn't look like old Beryl to me. So Beryl would be my underperformer. My overperformer would be Steel.
You got LS?
I think overperformer would be Fudge. I thought it was really weird he didn't get any MVPs yesterday in the games, but I'm pretty sure he's game 1 MVP on Lee Sin, and I'm thinking game 2. The whole thing that busted the game wide open was the Scion play in top, right? Which he sets up. So I thought that was really, really, really weird, especially playing the lane out the way that he. I mean, Evi's fucking boosted, but he's probably still control 3ing while he's on the plane back to Japan. But I think Fudge probably. I think both are actually on. I mean, Barrel's a good candidate for like playing really, really, really bad in this group. Barrel's absolutely a good candidate. I think the other one, like I think Blabber played really bad overall compared to what people expected. So I think for me, over would be Fudge, and then Blabber would be under probably.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that like for overperformer, Bugax could also be somebody who overperformed because like I know he went 0-11, but like I've played with this guy a lot, so like I can tell you that that's probably better than what I expected going into this tournament. So I would say that he probably was the overperformer for me.
Okay. All right. Thanks, man. All right. So that is our recap of the group stage, which brings us to Rumble and our Rumble predictions. Also brings us to the champion Rumble as well. Dom, why are the junglers sucking at Rumble? You felt very passionate about this. You feel like there's only 2 guys that can play it right now.
Like 3,
Elpoya and Wei. Elpoya and Wei. Who else? Who else can do it? And why has this been such a damn struggle?
I think
if
River,
you're able to do it. River. Okay.
I think it's just because people haven't played Rumble. Like, I think the junglers in general are good at picking up things that were like previously in the meta. So like if Rek'Sai randomly became the best jungler at the tournament, everyone would be able to play it because all these junglers have played Rek'Sai and have experience on the champion. So Rumble is unique in the way that like you play him, right? Like it's very like you're constantly having to manage your heat the whole time you're playing the game, right? Like you always need to be pretty much hitting 50 heat and then be ready to overheat at all points, right? But you see junglers walking around the map and they're like sitting at like 20 heat or 10 heat, which means that you can't actually overheat on cooldown, which limits the dueling potential. Like to be able to win every single skirmish and win every single duel, you need to be able to like overheat. And then other people like panic, and when they get engaged on, they'll overheat before they get their whole spells off. So like essentially what you want to be doing is you want to be on 50 heat and then Wing to 70 heat. And then you let it go down again. And the thing that's good about like constantly spamming your W from 50 to 70 heat is that like let's say you're on 70 heat, you can still EQE and you get like you get to your overheat and you have an extra E, because once if you press your E close enough to your overheat, you can use the second E during your overheat, which is really fucking broken. And then if like let's say you're on 60 heat, you can EWQ and then you can still get the second E off. So like so you want to just constantly be bouncing between that range so that all your spells you're getting the maximum value of, because you're always in the heat range. But then you're also like completely controlling when you can overheat. You can overheat at the drop of a hat if something happens. The other thing is ult usage. I think the ult usage has been really bad in this group. Also like Canyon just randomly, I don't think he took Ultimate Hunter. He took Conqueror on Rumble, which doesn't make any sense. Like the reason why like Night Harvester is not the best item in the game or anything, right? But like the reason it works on Rumble is because most of the time you're going to be ulting from a position where you're not going to actually be able to hit them with anything else. It's just going to be ulti. So anything that makes your ulti deal more damage there is going to be like the best thing possible. And then using it to like cut off chokes, really important. Knowing how to angle it so that like people get hit by the initial proc of it, but then they also have to like either flash or like they have to, walk through it at points. Those are good usages. And then also just abusing the cooldown. That is the most broken thing about Rumble. Is before Rumble used to have a very high ultimate cooldown, but essentially like Rumble now with Night Harvester and Dark Harvest is essentially old Rumble where you have like the initial damage on ult now. So like being able to abuse the fact that it's on a 45-second cooldown and knowing like where you can just throw it, get a flash, like knowing which timings, like if it's a minute 30 before Drake, you can use Rumble, you can try to get a pick, you can burn a summoner. We're just not seeing enough people like do that. Like half the times we see the Rumble ults, they're not even lined up like on a wall. They're not actually cutting off like anyone from walking. It's just like in a straight line and it hits them for like 100 damage and that's it. It's really
bad. LS.
Yeah, so the Rumble thing is really weird because obviously there's Freaks Tweet, right?
Yep.
I have a lot of problems with Freaks Tweet.
Wait. Let me read that for those that haven't seen it.
There's so many issues. I actually don't even think I can go into it right now, but this isn't just like an issue with just Freak's tweet. It's an issue with how people use stats and data in general, because almost everyone that I see tweet about stats uses it grossly irresponsibly. It is the worst thing, especially because stats don't always explicitly tell the truth. And what I mean by that is that stats can change upon newly discovered information. Really good example of this would be, imagine you go back in time now with all the information that you have right now about the game, and you go back to Season 3 and Season 4. The best champions back in Season 3 and Season 4 might not actually be the best champions, right? Because you're able to apply newly discovered information to the way that the game is being played, and using that, you can either you might be able to potentially showcase that a champion or a perceived way of playing the game actually isn't the best, right? Another thing about stats, the way that people use them, right? They'll always cite win rates, right? Like a positive win rate is very, very good. Even though we historically know. Oh my god,
I'm gonna have a stroke.
Well,
oh my god.
What?
I just saw the Freak's tweet. It's just like, it's so fucking stupid, man.
Oh. All right. For our non-visual listeners, followers, this is what it says. Stats credit to the Freak tweets out. Rumble is 3-7 at MSI so far. If you don't count RNG's completely free wins regardless of comp, the champ is giga overrated in that role. He's a good mid laner. He's a bad jungler. Draft better.
Echo again.
There we go. Anyway, go ahead.
Okay, so I just want to clarify. I don't think Freak is stupid. By the way, I think Freak normal. I actually always watch his patch rundowns because he has those charts. You know what I'm talking about? I don't know if you watch them, Dom. But he has like the chart. It shows all the differences, right, between buffs and nerfs and like breakpoints and like all this other stuff, right? So Freak has a lot of really, really good stuff. But this tweet is very akin to like arguments that I constantly engage in with other people in the scene that will cite win rates, or they'll also cite solo queue win rates as an indicator of competitive, which is insane to me. Because historically, we know there are champions that are conventionally perceived as broken, right? Even if you just do an eye test, you can see that the champion's really strong. Mr. Years, right? Aphelios. Whatchamacallit? Senna at a certain point in time. Akali is another good one. Lilia is another good one. These are champions that, at many different points in times had negative win rates in both solo queue and negative win rates inside of competitive, but we know that they're broken, right? And how do you know that you're broken? Well, by going into the context of the games, right? Because numbers by themselves don't do anything. And anyone who says that it does is they're lying.
Yeah,
and they're using stats completely irresponsibly.
But it has a 47% win rate in the jungle and Diamond 2. Because that matters, because these are Diamond 2 players, So
well, the thing is that a Diamond 2, like, again, like Rumble's strengths inside of the jungle are better utilized by coordination. Right? Like a mid-game double ulting is really broken in Dragon and Baron standoffs because you can double ult. The way that he's going to get ahead of you, the way that he can accelerate the game, the way that he can exert pressure, right? It's less common that would be found in solo queue than it would in competitive. Lilia is another really good example. Lilia has always had like a
45% win rate.
Yeah, she's like 45%. But Lilia, at several different points, was highly contested inside of competitive. And we know that Lilia is very, very good, but not everyone can actually play her well, right? And they even say this inside of interviews and like all this other stuff. But stats, I mean, I don't want to go on too big of a tangent here because I actually think that this is almost like an entire show or like fucking episode in itself. Or it's just an entire video in itself. Every single fucking person that cites stats in League of Legends in the esports community is completely using data and stats irresponsibly. Every single one. And it's so fucking insane every time I see the tweets. I don't want to hear win rate as a fucking argument or a metric. I mean, you can bring up win rate, right? It can lead you to questions. It doesn't answer the questions for you. It's not the be all end all, right? The context is the most important thing, right? But then also the argument of newly discovered information is another really big one. Or what is actually happening in the context of the games. So, for instance, I can't go on this rant right now. But
go on it, man. If not, I'm gonna fucking pick it up where you left off because this is just
insane. I mean,
well, the thing is, like, you try to like. This is the thing that I hate about tweets like this. It's clearly just made to make people like me look bad and make people like LS look bad because we rated the champion highly. If you try to argue point by point, wait, can you mute for a second? Or because we're getting echo.
Oh, sorry. Let me mute. Yep.
Yeah. So if you look at like the champion itself and you start arguing point by point, what is Rumble weak at? Why is Rumble a bad champion? Like, I don't want to hear win rate, and I don't want to hear that 5 wildcard teams played Rumble, which are worse players, and then they sucked on Rumble, and then that somehow indicates that the champion is bad, right? And then also, like, in this thing, in this tweet, he's like, okay, we'll take away all of like RNG's games for like some arbitrary reason because RNG played against wild cards, so that doesn't like matter. Like, just take away all their stats, and now we're like looking at the stats outside of RNG. We're like, they have the most competent Rumble player by far at the tournament, right? So he just gets discredited for no reason. But if you go point by point, and you start arguing, what does the champion do poorly? Why is Rumble a bad jungler, right? What ends up being the things that he's arguing? The champion is literally good at everything. It's good in team fights. It scales well for a jungler. Like, if you're talking about like scaling, like compared to like solo laners and things like that, obviously it doesn't scale as well as a fucking like mid Orianna or some shit. But it scales better than fucking Udyr, for example, and like the other things that are being played in the jungle. It scales better than like pretty much every single jungler outside of maybe Morgana that's being played. Good skirmishing early. It's manaless. It's a fucking huge advantage. The main weakness of the champion is that it's actually invadable at level 1. So if you don't draft strong level 1 with Rumble and he's trying to like overheat on his W, he can get invaded, he can get behind because of that. But like 45-second level 11 ultimate cooldown on a fucking ability that literally one-shots the whole enemy team, like that, come on, it can't be fucking balanced. And the thing is, Rumble's gonna get nerfed. Like, people are eventually gonna catch on to how fucking broke Rumble is. If it takes longer than just MSI, so be it, man. The best teams in the world aren't at MSI, right? Like, if you look at MSI, this is the whole point I made going into the tournament. If you go into MSI, how many of the best 10 teams in the world are at MSI? 2, maybe 3. That's all you can say, right? Like, there's no way that you can argue that higher than 2 or 3 teams are best 10, are top 10 in the world right now at this tournament. And then you're using these junglers, like you're watching Ferret, like first time Rumble, and a bunch of players that also didn't understand that Rumble was going to be good coming into the tournament and now realize it's broken and are trying to pick it up on stage. And you're using those players to determine whether the champion is good or not. I mean, go for it.
No, there's a lot of other stuff that is pissing me off about this. The sample size.
Yeah.
Who would use a 10-game sample size? What the fuck? That is not a sample size. That is absolutely not. But then the other thing, this was the thing that pissed me off about Renekton, right? This is the thing that really fucking triggered me about Renekton when people would always bring up Renekton globally, right? No one did weighted statistics against Renekton. And by weighted, I mean comparing like Renekton's win rate on top teams versus bottom teams versus top teams, right? And then like a lot of other context. But the problem is that there is a lot to fucking untangle. It gets really convoluted. But then the other thing is standard deviations. No one talks about standard deviations. This is fucking insane. I actually don't know, and this isn't flaming anyone. I don't know how many people are, and it's not to say that you actually need a degree to do this, but like, I don't know how many stats majors are actually in LoL esports. Most people that do stats on a team do not have like a degree or a career field in stats, right? It's just something they elected to pick up and start doing, right? Most people that do that. Because I've looked at like a lot of people's histories that have like this title on teams, right? Like data analyst or like stats analyst on like certain teams. Most people have no history in this field. And I'm not saying that you need a history in a field. Technically, you could actually probably just use YouTube and you could probably teach yourself, right? I'm not saying that that's impossible. But the thing is that there is so much fucking absent whenever people are talking about stats. There's so many concepts about statistics that are absent from every single conversation. It's just not possible. It's not possible. And I'm not saying that I use stats fucking responsibly. I don't fucking know nearly enough that I probably should to use the stats responsibly. But you can, like, this is like one of those things where you can tell they're being used grossly irresponsibly. And then the problem is that they're being echoed. Another really good thing is I want to pull up fucking trading card games, right? There are decks in trading card games that when piloted by elite players will have a gross and overbearing fucking win rate, and you cannot play against that deck in their hands. But if you try to take that deck to a ladder, you try to take that deck to a local, you try to take that deck to a random tournament, you're going to get your shit stomped in by a deck that actually can't contend with that deck, maybe due to the complexity of the deck.
But that doesn't mean that the deck is actually bad. It just means you're not good at playing it. And then if that becomes your counter argument that people aren't good enough at Rumble so that they shouldn't play it and they should play something easier, well, now you're fucking moving the goalposts. And it's not actually that Rumble's bad. Sure. It's that the people that are playing that Rumble are too bad at him, which means that your fucking statistics that he has a loss rate goes completely out the window.
The worst part about this is like you can look at it and you can tell that it's so obviously like divisive in nature, right? So this is what Freak is doing. I mean, he doesn't say he's doing this because what he says in the tweet is he's going to just take away RNG's wins that would be completely free regardless of comp, right? So if you take every single Rumble game that is won because the team is just better, then you have to also take away every single Rumble game that is lost because the team is just worse. You can't look at Pentanet playing Rumble first time against RNG and then count that as a Rumble loss and then not count RNG as having a Rumble fucking win when they beat that team with Rumble. It's so fucking disgusting that this guy is doing this shit, actually. It's so gross, man. Like, you're actually saying, like, okay, let's just remove all of Rumble's losses. Like, if you take away all of Rumble's losses, then it has a 100% win rate at MSI. It's like the equivalent of what this guy is saying. It makes no fucking sense. Like, it's actually so delusional, man. And then, like, the argument of, like, if it takes 100 games of Rumble to play it, then that means that it's a bad jungler. Like, no, that's not how the game works. It takes 100 games of Azir mid to learn how to play Azir. But when Azir is strong, Azir is just fucking strong. We don't just say, oh, well, Azir's not good because it takes a lot of games to, like, play it. Like, what the fuck is the point of that? The players that can adapt and can play Rumble are going to have a massive advantage this tournament. If you see RNG make it to the finals and people are not banning Rumble, they're going to fucking win because of Rumble. Like, people are going to end up adapting to it. So then you're going to say, like, okay, so then you have to ban it for the people that are actually good. And then those games don't get factored into the stats, right? Like, if RNG draws 5 Rumble bans, which is a significant advantage in a best of 5, you're not going to say, oh, well, the stats still show like that it's 3-7 based off like what happened on these free win games. It just doesn't make any sense.
Wait, let me jump in on this really quick. If Reckless plays Senna, okay, 100 games, and everyone else in the LEC plays Senna 100 games, okay, and G2 knows how to utilize Senna and knows how to time her souls against jungle camps because they know what they're doing with her, and Senna is obviously a really fucking strong champion when you're coordinated and know what you're doing. That has nothing to do with whether or not Senna is good or not. Obviously, she's good when you're playing her well, but if you're really bad and you're incompetent at her, then yes, she's going to look worse. But that has nothing to do with her balance state and has nothing to do with whether or not she's actually good. She's entirely viable, but you just can't play it. But that has nothing to do with the argument at hand.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay. All right.
Well, and then there's the other thing where, like, his stats, like, he just throws stats at you, and the way that he organizes them make it look different than it is. But what he's essentially showing with his stats is that as you play at higher tiers, Rumble gets better and better. So that means that when played by really good players, it should be even more, like, even better than it is in Diamond ELO, because the players mastering it is showing, or like having better players play it is showing a massive increase in the win rate. So, like, when you're playing at an international tournament that's supposed to theoretically, like, it doesn't actually have it, but it's supposed to theoretically have the best teams in the world, wouldn't Rumble then be a really good pick within the context of that tournament? If what you're demonstrating with your stats is that as you get better and better players, the win rate goes higher and higher?
I agree with you guys. And knowing Freak, who has a degree in economics, I think that this is, he did this to get a reaction and simplify it, but that's not what we do here.
One of the things I wanted to chime in on this at the very end is that whatchamacallit. The other thing is that just because Rumble loses the game doesn't mean he was a reason for the game being lost either. Which I don't think that I don't necessarily know if I even explicitly said that, right? Rumble could have been a non-factor in the loss, right? Like it doesn't necessarily mean anything. So just using a blanket win rate doesn't say anything, because ultimately what you could do, right, is you could have you could have a game where Seraphine had a negative win rate, right? I think she had a negative win rate, right? But everyone knew that she was broken in spring. Everyone was playing her when she was like super broken. But the thing is that if Seraphine, there were so many games where Seraphine was the only thing holding the team together, right? But if you don't look at the context of the game, you don't see that. You just see Seraphine loses and you chalk it up to another loss. That's really fucking weird.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think it's really bad. It's so bad to put this type of stuff out into the community because what it does is it influences like stupid people to then like start attacking people that made correct claims.
Yes.
Like I think that's the biggest
issue. They
issue.
can weaponize
like,
it against deeper
so
analysis.
Now I'm gonna have
we've hit this before. Yeah.
I mean, I've literally just had people just telling me that Rumble is bad now. Where it's like, dude, no one's even willing to have the conversation as to why he's bad. People will just say win rates and stuff. Like, okay, man, great, thank you. Like you take people that can't play the champion and then they play bad on it, and then now it's a bad champion. True, makes sense, guys.
All right, I think we are overheated on the Rumble talk, so let's dive into more Rumble talk, but this time the groups Rumble talk of MSI. We got ourselves our 6 teams here. Also, these are the types of conversation I appreciate the most on Facecheck, just because we are tackling bad information in different ways, or misinformation in different ways, or differing opinions on how things go. So I appreciate the fact that we dive on in there. All right. Now we're in the Rumble stage. Here we go. It is Smash themed, since I guess the BTS tournament just happened yesterday, which is Beyond the Summit, not the Korean pop group. Who do we got make it in this group here?
I mean, I think that the top 4 are just going to be RNG, Dom1, Mad Lions, Cloud9. But PSG could definitely like take out Cloud9 if Cloud9 plays bad again. But yeah, I don't see a world like, even if Dom1 underperforms, even if RNG like drops a couple games, I don't see a world where they don't make it. So I think it's just going to be like the standard top 4 regions advancing.
LS.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Dom. I think that the 2 teams in the middle, Pentanet and PSG, are probably just going to get eliminated. I think PSG, it's weird, right? They did get 2-0'd, but I don't know. Depending on, I mean, it's best of ones, right? Weird stuff could end up happening. So like, if PSG is going to be able to snipe out any of the 2 teams, then yeah, it's probably going to be Cloud9 and then Mad in that order to maybe take one of their places, I would imagine. But I'm not sure.
So again, no one's worried about the form that Mad Lions is in terms of these close games that they've had, and PSG Town looking. I don't know. I think
I'd be much more worried about. I'd be much more worried about like Cloud9 reverting back to like how they played in the first 3 games, because the thing about like Mad Lions is, you know, they threw or whatever, but they're playing the early game like pretty, like they're playing it pretty aggressive, and they're getting leads themselves by like making things happen, and like they're doing relatively intelligent things with like trying to, you know, move humanoid bot lane off his like pushing waves and move El Yoya with him, which I think is really legitimate. Like I don't care as much about them throwing as I care about like how C9 played like their pretty much their first 3 games. I mean, their game versus DFM, like Blabber had a huge int and they didn't have that many tools in the draft. I actually thought that the game that like bothered me the most that Cloud9 played was actually their first win against Infinity, because they looked so scared, right? Like they have pushing mid, pushing bot. They didn't do anything with it, and they just like farmed the whole game and scaled, which I hope that this doesn't happen versus better teams. I hope that this was just like a one-off thing where they're like, oh shit, we're like scared of losing this game, so that's why we played like that. If they can actually like continue like decent early games, and if they can like figure out what they really want to do within draft, I think that Cloud9 definitely like should make it out over PSG.
Yeah, that was the conversation that you got into. That I kind of agree with you when you got that conversation with Zale saying like, hey, MSI is an opportunity for players to learn, right? That's what players have said. They're just here to learn. Like, yeah, they want to win. Yeah, they want to represent. And I'm sure there may be pressure of like going 0-3 in the first half of groups, but like playing scared. Your points about playing scared doesn't teach the players then what their actual limits are, right? You need to go out there and really play how you normally would, play loose, play aggressive, as you would in North America, to see and learn actual things, which is, and the reason why I'm going on a tangent about this is because every time, I think, except maybe Team Liquid, a team has come back from MSI, they've shit the bed in the LCS summer split. They always have. They always have. And I think that's because teams aren't limit testing themselves, being proactive the way that they normally do against these international teams. They learn how to be reactive to how the international meta happens. And then when they come back to NA and they're no longer the juggernaut that they are, or the proactive beast that they are, because they've been playing reactive and respecting way too much these other teams, they fall behind the LCS and at times don't make playoffs or don't back to back. So that was just I thought that was a really good point that you had made about Cloud9 playing scared in that first half of the group stage.
I think there's another issue here that I want to talk about, which is also that like because NA teams in general make a lot of like irrational decisions in game, I think it throws off teams that are like I feel like when you're playing against teams that are making rational decisions all the time, it's easier for you to like adapt to that than when you come back to NA and there's teams that are like grouping on random timings, and I feel like that actually throws off a lot of the teams within North America, and like it makes it so like if the enemy team is just perma grouping, right, and you can just push out sides like consistently and then show up to the objective, then it's like it's not horrible to always group. You don't always have to fucking 1-3-1 throughout like the entire game. Like you can do other things within the game to give yourself like windows to win, and I think that's something that happens is because NA teams like don't play predictably and they do things that are like kind of irrational or don't really make sense. It actually throws off teams that like have tried to like ascend past that when they go to international competition.
Well, I just wish that they would just be, if they're grouping at weird timings, then punish them. Just punish them. Punish them how you should. But that hasn't been the case yet, and we'll see what happens after MSI for Cloud9. LS, you said middle team's out. Do you have an order?
Yeah,
here
I mean,
for
I
us?
think the two middle,
because the order now finally matters.
I mean, I think it's the two middle teams out. I think Cloud9 or Mad Lions can both make finals, assuming that they run into either one of each other. I gotta wait till after. I don't know who to predict between Dom1 and RNG right now. If Dom1 are playing like they did in the group, in Group C or whatever, I don't think that they're actually favorites against RNG, and that's pretty scary. This is also, I mean, there's a lot of stuff. I think a lot of people don't realize this as well, but like LCK, the top four is like really heavy. So I think there's a lot of stuff riding on Dom1 winning. They have to win MSI, right? For like LCK. Because top four is like so heavy. North America, it's top three. I think sending fourth seed in NA doesn't matter, right?
Right.
Europe is also another one that is pretty, or does Europe have 4 seeds this year?
It has, I think it's depending on who places higher this tournament. But no, I think Europe doesn't have 4 seeds guaranteed.
Okay. So yeah, I think for Europe and Korea, there's like a lot riding on it. I mean, China as well, right? Like these 3 regions. But in Korea, yeah, it's actually maybe I'm just biased on this one. It's a little bit scary, but T1.
Jesus, man, you don't believe that T1's going to be better than Hanwha Life as a 3rd seed? Like they can't.
No, all I'm saying is that I think the way that the points work and the way the qualifications work or something for Worlds, it gets really scary.
Yeah.
Dom. It's just the church versus the check here for LS.
Yeah, it's the church versus the check. I don't know. I feel like RNG is definitely like coming in with a huge advantage into this stage. And then the other thing is like I don't know why people. I've been seeing this argument a lot where people are like, oh, RNG, we can't say that they're good just because they stomped wildcard regions. But then they like ignore the fact that they played in the hardest competition in the world. The hardest competition in the world was LPL playoffs. It was the one that had the most parity. And then not only that, it just had like the best format, right? Yeah, the echo's annoying, but whatever.
There you go. You got him.
I'm just trying to like get through it.
You got through it. You got it.
Dude, it's so fucking hard to talk when you're hearing like an echo, man. It's so crazy, actually.
Welcome to being a host. Yes.
Yeah. No, it's so hard. It's so hard because then you start like hearing yourself. It distracts you from the point you're trying to make. But essentially, like what I was saying was, I don't like how most people are saying, "Oh, we've only seen RNG stomp wildcard teams," and it's like they ignore the majority of what you've got to see from RNG this season, which is like all the best of threes they played in LPL, all the playoffs they got to play in LPL. Like they played 4 best of 5s recently, like a month ago. So like, why is all of that ignored? And people make it seem like all they've done in their fucking career as a team is beat wildcard teams. It's super strange.
Yeah, they have to be number 1 coming through. All right. So decision time, Dom. So you got RNG, Damwon, Mad Lions, Cloud9.
Yep, that order.
LS same, or you flip flop in Damwon.
I don't know. I mean, I would have RNG right now, but maybe it changes after the group. I don't know.
All right, there we go. Well, yeah. This is just for the to see who's making the semifinals. All right, so I who did I pick? Yeah, okay, yeah. I think I flip flop Mad Lions and Cloud9. I think good Cloud9 show up, and I think Mad Lions mid game kind of kerfluffle is a focus thing. I think it's a focus thing, and they might have some trouble with that. But we'll see. All right, I think that's it. We hit all of MSI. We hit what happened, what had happened. We hit Rumble, and then we hit Rumble. Let's see. Anything else that we need to hit on? Was there any other points that we had? Anything else that you guys needed to hit on?
All I'm saying is that if you take away all of RNG's potential losses at this tournament, they're going to go undefeated. So, and that's guaranteed. So, yeah, that's just one of the takes. I'll put out the stats later so you can compare the platinum win rates of teams that, go undefeated while taking away all their losses, so that hopefully you guys have a better idea of what I'm trying to say here.
Yeah, please color code the Excel spreadsheet for me. I would appreciate that very much, El Domenico. LS, what do you got this week?
I mean, yeah, I really like that, Dom. I wish that I had that kind of perspective last year at Worlds. Maybe that way I could have seen that, TSM at least had a, they were undefeated. Yeah, if you just take away all their losses, they have actually yet to play. So
they're still 0-0 waiting for Worlds to start.
Maybe that was what's going on there. No, this week, I don't know. I think my other talk show starts this week. The one that I'm doing with Nemesis. That should be in a few days, actually. Should either be in 2 days or 3 days. That'll start. And then obviously MSI live viewings once again. Oh, and then the Scrims versus LCK Challenger and Academy team starts in 2 weeks. The streamed ones. Nice.
Do you have a name of your show?
It's not announced yet. Yeah. We're waiting for everything, the graphics and stuff.
But you have a name.
Yeah, we have a name. Yeah.
God damn.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, Dom, I was supposed to tell you because I interviewed Coach Mac. He's very, 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 very sorry that he missed out. He said it was actually a family emergency, and he's
on the crackdown.
Sorry. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, that was no problem.
Okay.
We just, I mean, we had like good guests come through anyway. So.
It was super funny because that was the first thing he said. He's like, "Yeah, I've noticed that he's had a couple of other guests come on by, and I just haven't heard from him in a while. But I just wanted him to know that it was really an emergency."
No. I mean, I don't know if he actually doesn't know what's happening. What Thorin told me is that like we're just gonna like rebook right after MSI, like because I mean obviously like he's going to MSI, so we're not gonna do a crackdown like with him in the middle of the tournament. So we'll get one with him after. But we actually ended up like. So we had to randomly like get a replacement, and we actually got Jet, and that was probably one of my favorite Crackdown episodes ever.
Yeah. Oh, that's how that happened? That was sick.
Yeah. It was just like one day I was just like, hey, like I just messaged him on Discord. I'm like, Jet, you want to come on? We talked about doing it like a year and a half ago, and then right when he started coaching, he didn't want to like do a show because he didn't know what he should be saying and what he shouldn't. Like he wasn't really like comfortable in the role yet. And then we ended up doing that, which was like, yeah, I mean, it was crazy how good that episode like was to just do, like the experience of just talking to Jet and Thorin, like talking to people that have been doing this shit for like 10, 11 years. Like we all started at the beginning, right? So you can go to so many different points in time and talk about so many different things. It's just like so fulfilling, man. Like, I don't know how else to describe it. It's just like one of the most fulfilling episodes I've done.
Yeah, that's sick. Any Crackdown coming next week?
We have one tomorrow. And it's with Limit from Schalke, who's like one of my favorite players because he's just like, he's fucking huge. And I'm going to ask him, first thing, when is he going to do the Nunu and Willem cosplay with Broken Blade, being the little guy on top throwing snowballs? That's what I'm looking for. So we got Limit on the Crackdown, and then I'm doing something inside this week too, which is going to be like a deep dive on like greatest players of all time. That's going to be the discussion.
That's sick.
When do we get Sanchovies on the Crackdown?
Dude, I don't know, man. When do we get Sanchovies on the Crackdown? Maybe when he starts watching Pro League.
I mean, he's been tweeting at everyone right after the games. He got fudged.
It's beneath him.
Yeah. Now he has ego. Mo made his career, and now he just egos on me, dude. I message him. He responds like 8 hours later these days.
Fame changes people. All right. Hey, for everyone out there, you heard our predictions here for Rumble. If you want to get yourself an opportunity for a shout out on Facecheck and be immortalized, and only the way that Facecheck can do that, make sure to comment in our prediction video over at VENN Esports. But Dom LS have the same predictions, and you have the opportunity to hop on in too. Also doing a lot of post-game interviews with teams and coaches over for MSI. So that's new content I've been putting out as well over at VENN Esports. So please help and support that. Watch these two with their co-streams of the MSI Rumble stage all next week long. And we'll be back next, was it Tuesday or Wednesday? I forgot. We'll be back next week with Facecheck to break down the Rumble stage and give you our predictions for the semifinals and finals. Thank you, everyone. We appreciate all of you. Have a fantastic week. See you later.
Hi, I'm dGon, esports expert across multiple titles. If you want to be as suave and smart as me, click subscribe, watch these videos, and try your best to keep up.